All right, back with another Tailwind UI live stream. So I put up a poll on Twitter to see which one of these people were more interested in seeing me build. And last I checked, we can double check this, but it was pretty close. But last I checked, the Kanban board sort of issue tracker was winning. 51% to 49%, so super tight race. So I am going to build out this UI here, this sort of like Trello-ish thing, and maybe I'll build out the other one on another stream another time. So I've got a pretty rough cold right now, so forgive me if I sound hoarse or cough or make any other gross, disgusting sounds. But that's just how it's going to have to be. So we're going to build this. Should be kind of fun. We got some interesting things here. Like we're going to have to do this like scrolling section here, which will be kind of cool. Overlapping avatars is always a fun little trick. I really like this little toggle, so that'll be kind of fun. Maybe we can even make that like interactive and like have it like animate or something if we have some time. So I guess we will just get to it. All right, gross noise number 1 out of the way. So I've got an empty screen over here. I've got VS Code over here, and let's just start. So looking at this, if we want this area to sort of be like scrollable independently, then that makes me think of this as sort of like a full screen type of Flexbox layout. So let's just kind of get the bones for that in place. So we're going to have this like left sidebar section. Then we're going to have like a right main area that has a top section, and I'm trying to think how this is going to be cut up. Let's peek over at maybe some of Steve's stuff really quick and see if he has any other clues that I can use to decide how to cut this up. So both of these have like a full header. This has a full header. This has a full header. Okay, all right. So I feel pretty good about how this is going to work. Let's close all this junk. Okay, so the way that we're going to do it is we're going to have a section here. We're going to have this full section up here. Then we're going to have like a content area here. So Tailwind doesn't ruin semantics in any way. You can still use all the same HTML elements, which is the only thing that matters for semantics. But yeah. All right, let's go H screen, flex. Then inside here, we're going to have a div for the sidebar. We're going to have a div for the main area. We're going to have a div for like the header. Let's just do the layout with divs, and we can give each section a semantic element if we want. So let's just give these some colors maybe to start. So let's pull up this. So here we've got BG Gray 100 for this. And then everything else is going to be BG White. And this is going to have a 2-pixel bottom border. Border B2, border gray 200. And then we've got this sort of scrollable area here. So we'll probably have like overflow hidden on this. And then like a scrollable area inside of it, or maybe just overflow auto and maybe overflow hidden on here. We'll see. We'll figure out the scrolling stuff separately. Sounds like my daughter fell downstairs, so you may hear some screaming in the background. Kids, man, always getting hurt. All right, so let's see. How does this look? Looks like nothing, right? So what's the width on this? 240, so that's like kind of close to 256 in Tailwind land, so we'll just probably roll with that, unless 56 is closer. All right, so let's just go. All right, what am I typing class again for? Width 64, that's the cold. I like to put stuff like width earlier in the class attribute list. Okay. So that looks good. And then this will be flex 1, min width 0 is like my trick to making sure that we don't run into any surprises with the layout. Does this have like a right border or anything? It does. Let's check it out here. There's a little strip here, 300, 1 pixel. So let's do border R, border gray. No, 300 is the default, so we just won't even touch that. Okay, so there we go. And then we can start dumping in some content. So we got this logo up here. So let's dump in a logo. So we'll do, I think it's like img, let's see, public image example logo.svg. If I can type. And okay, there's our logo. Steve has this as 36, which is H9W9. Those don't exist in Tailwind by default, but I have been playing around a little bit with some customizations that should make their way into Tailwind by default. Building it the Tailwind UI stuff has actually been a great way to dog food the Tailwind default config and make sure that it's not missing anything. So yeah, 7 and 9 will make their way into Tailwind's default config by the time we actually release Tailwind UI. So I feel comfortable using those here. So we got that in place. What do we got for horizontal padding? We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 8 times 4 plus 2, which is 34. Kind of a weird number. We'll go with 8. So let's just do px8 and then 6 pixels or 10 pixels. So we don't really have a value for that. So we'll just go with like py3 and just see how that works. Sorry, just trying to stay on top of chat a little bit better than I have in the past. Yeah, so someone asked about the liquid templating stuff. Literally, the only reason that this is a .liquid file is because there's a liquid extension for, like, liquid is Shopify's templating language, which is HTML with YAML at the top. So this is really just HTML, but I'm calling it a .liquid file so that I get syntax highlighting, because if I switched like the language mode to like HTML, language mode, HTML, seems to work fine for some reason, maybe because of the liquid extension. But without the liquid extension installed, I wasn't getting syntax highlighting on the YAML. So I just thought, you know what, I'll just make them liquid files. Oh, and hilariously, when I switch it to liquid, it actually breaks. So that's hilarious. So I don't know. Without this plugin, though, it didn't work. Let's just put it that way. So it's not important. It's literally for syntax highlighting purposes only. And this is just like my sort of internal tool for building Tailwind UI. No one will ever see these files except me. You'll just see the HTML. All right. So, oh yeah, I always keep forgetting about this trick in Figma. So if I have this selected and I hover here, then I can see 18 and 34. That's like so much easier. Thanks for reminding me. All right. So what does that look like? I think we need to go py4. All right. Okay, so now we're going to have like a nav, I guess. It's kind of tricky because it's like, it's a nav, but it's filters. I don't know. We'll call it a nav. And I guess this will be like a, I guess we'll call this like an H2 technically. If we assume that there's like a screen reader only H1 somewhere, which I think is a common practice. And then we'll have a bunch of links here that go to nothing. So let's just style one of them first. So this is going to say all, and then there's going to be a badge over here with 36. Let's put both these in spans so we can target them more easily. So 14 to the edge. So this is going to be class flex justify between. I will make this the active one, so I guess we'll give it a BG gray 200. A rounded LG for the corners. So padding of 10 at the top. Now it depends on what you consider the line height to be. 14 on the sides. So I think we're just going to have to eyeball this and see where we get. So maybe like PX3, PY1. It's not terrible. Let's get the fonts right here. So we're going to use text small, font medium, text gray 900. Text small, font medium, text gray 900. Okay. And then is this the same color? That's 700 and extra small. Okay. All right. So we'll go class, text extra small. Text gray 700. Was the font weight the same? No, it's semi-bold. So font semi-bold. Now we're going to want to center these, I think, or baseline align them. Let's see what Steve did. He probably didn't put too much attention into getting this perfect. Looks like they're centered. All right. So we will go item center. Okay, and then we need to style this bad boy. So that's probably 12 semi-bold 600, okay? Text extra small, font semi-bold, text gray 600, uppercase, tracking wider probably. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Wide or wider? Let's try wide. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so now how much space do we have to that? 34. So that's going to be like our top margin on this. Call it 32, which would be, what's that? 32 divided by 4 is 8. So if this nav gets a MT8, that should shove that down a bit. And then distance from here to here is 9 pixels, which is really, call it 8, maybe less because of the line height. So we can do MT2 for that. And honestly, I think we should wrap this up into a container and put the spacing information on the container instead, so that the links can be more uniform. Okay, so now we need some negative margin to pull this out. So I think we'll just do that on this container as well. So if we're going to do like a padding of 3 on here, then we also want negative MX3 on here so that things are even. These look a little bit short to me now, so let's go with PY2. What does that give us? Let's just compare the literal heights and see if there's anything we need to do. So that's 37. Steve's is 36. So probably not worth dicking around to get that any closer. I think that's probably good. 1 pixel, you know, we're not going to get 1 pixel closer without an explicit height, which I try to avoid explicit heights. I'm actually curious if I move this information to the span, if we get a difference, which sometimes you do because of the way line height affects things, but guess not. Okay, so that seems fine. So let's do assigned to me, created by me, and archived. So we'll just do a couple more of those. These ones don't need this background, but maybe we'll give them like a hover. And it looks like this is 700 and this is 900. So the inactive ones are going to be 700. And what were the labels? Assigned to me, created by me, archived. Assigned to me, created by me, archived. 2 and 1 and nothing. We can probably just trash that. Okay, so that seems okay. All right, moving on to this next section. I think I'm just gonna assume that these are really like meant to be the exact same. So I'm gonna just duplicate this whole thing. So, and this is tags. And then what do we got for distance here? 33, call it 32, which is math 8. All right. I mean, that seems good. We'll just update some of this information. So we'll just kind of put this over here and then get this going. So we're going to have bug. Actually, none of these are selected, so we'll get rid of this one. We'll get rid of this, get rid of this. And since there's not going to be a badge next to it, like, trying to think like if it makes sense to leave these classes on there, even though like they're not technically used. I feel like it probably in a real app you would, because you're just going to be conditionally displaying this, right? So let's keep it there. So we'll do bug 3, 4, 5, 6. Feature request marketing v 2.0 enhancement design. Okay, and that looks good. And then we have this like new project button or link. Let's make it a button. New project, and there's going to be some sort of SVG here. Let's get over to our plus icon. Let's make sure that's, so there's this plus icon and there's this plus icon. This to me looks like this one. Copy as SVG, SVG, OMG. Back to this song and dance. Oops. God knows what you're going to see in my downloads folder. Okay. And I guess we could just like take a look at what we get here. All right, so there's a background, which we don't need. I decided after the last stream to keep the stroke versions of the icons. So we're just going to be doing like stroke, current color, class equals, let's see, are we going to be able to glean an exact size from this? Probably not. It's 10 by 10, which is, if you look at how much padding is around this, I'm going to guess that's probably pretty big icon actually. Let's just try H4W4, which would be 16 by 16. And I'm going to hide, I don't need the layers view, so let's hide the layers panel so we can at least see this stuff. All right, so that's going to be gray 500. Looks like we can even go bigger. Probably 5. All right, and then this button, we'll give it a class of flex. And the text is probably text small. Yeah, text small, font medium, gray 600. We'll just put that right here. Span class equals text. Some of these things I think make sense up here. Text small, font medium, text gray 600. Yeah, we'll just do it all up here. We'll keep the span here for spacing, maybe. Okay, and then we're gonna want a little bit of left margin, maybe like an ML1, maybe an ML2. ML1's okay. Now, one thing that's kind of weird that you'll notice is because of the padding around the icon, you end up with the button being kind of like inset, which is a little kind of a bummer. But I can't think of really a better way to do that. The only thing that we could try is maybe using the other plus icon. Let's just try this for comparison and see. I'm just going to copy this path. We'll just replace this path because everything else should be the same. So now we end up with a bigger icon that's closer to the edge. We can probably drop this back down to like 4 now. But now the stroke is really thin. Yeah, I think the other one was better. Okay, so I think it's kind of an interesting problem, really, that the icon has so much padding around it. I don't really want to try and like use negative margin to make up for it, like doing like negative ML2 or something weird like that, because you're still never going to get it perfect, and now you're just doing something that kind of feels pretty hacky. But I don't know, maybe it's okay. You got to imagine if you were going to do an actual outline on this button, it's going to stick out past the left edge of where the actual badges are. So, I don't know. Let's just keep it, even though it's kind of weird. And maybe we can think about a different solution later. Let's try like MT6 here or something. That's probably too much. 4. How's that? Steve's is a little less still. 3, 2. 2 seems good. We might want some space between each one of these items, but you can imagine like if we duplicated this and highlighted this one, I think they are like going to be touching. So I guess we don't need some space. All right. Sidebar for the desktop layout, I would call that done for now. So let's move on to the right-hand side. Okay, so up here in this top section, we're going to have, oh, this won't let me go to 50% screen width. Weird. Okay. So we're going to have a div that holds, oh, this border is not supposed to go all the way to the edge. That's me changing that. Should go to there. Okay, so we're going to have a div with some padding on it. I mean, we can make this our header if we want. Let's just see what's the gap between this and this. 21. 20 divided by 4 is... we're going to have a hard time making 5 work. We're going to want to do 6 because here you can see we have to cut it in half. So we need like the same distance here as we have here. That's not going to be possible if we're trying to cut Tailwind's 5 unit in half because there is no 2.5. So I think we're going to want to bump everything up to 6 here. So let's do px6. And then inside here, there's going to be a top section and a bottom section. And this top section is going to have a border B. It looks like it's a gray 200 border, really subtle. Border gray 200. And we've got an input over here. Let's see what this type of content is here. Okay, so we're going to make 2 divs. Div city central here. This is going to be like the left half and the right half. So we'll go flex, justify between item center, classic combo. And then inside the first half, there's going to be an input. But because the input needs to have this icon next to it, we're going to need to wrap that in a container with position relative so that we can put an SVG here. And we'll grab that magnifying glass icon, copy the SVG, head back over to SVG OMG, paste that in, grab it, paste it here, delete the background, find our stroke information, cut that, paste it here, save, get prettier to do its magic, set this to current color, guess on some sizes and some colors. We'll revisit this quickly here. What does Steve have for this? 600, so I was a little bit off. My apologies. The input has a 600 placeholder color. Class equals placeholder gray 600, probably like text gray 900, I would imagine, when you're actually typing. And we'll do rounded MD because it's a 6 pixel corner radius. Border gray 400. Some padding, probably like PY3. The left and right padding is going to be a little bit weird, probably at least like PL10 and then like PR4 or something. Let's just see. We're also going to want this to be, sorry, this SVG is going to have to be in a container. Absolute inset Y0 left 0 flex item center, and that'll center the magnifying glass inside of an absolutely positioned element. So you can see here now we have the span inside, which centers the SVG inside of it. So we need some left margin, or sorry, left padding on this. It's like PL2 maybe, something like that. And of course it's way too tall. So let's drop this down to like PY2. And now this whole container is 42 pixels tall. Steve's is 40 pixels tall. So if we change this to 1, that's probably going to be too short. 34. So I think probably the trick here is going to be, we could try like letting tight PY2 and see what that gives us. That's 38. So, you know, it depends how much Steve really actually cares about this being 40 pixels tall. Another thing to consider is what font size this is. This is text small, so we should do that too, which is going to change the height as well. So now we're at 35, so we might actually be able to get rid of this letting tight and just end up being much closer to 40. 39, that'll do. All right, what do we got for this gap? Just eyeballing it, I feel like we could go a little bit more. So we'll do PL3 here. And then let's add a placeholder to this input. It says search. And what do we think for, did I get the size of this right? I think the size of the magnifying glass looks pretty close. Maybe we could add a little bit more left padding here. It's a little much. If we just put these like right under each other. Yeah, I think 10 is the better choice. Okay, no problem. Now, that's 11 vertical padding, so we'll call that 12, so PY3. So let's do on this PY3. Okay. And then we'll do this stuff over here. So grab the old bell. Paste this in. So now in the right half over here, we're going to have a button that holds the bell. And we're going to have a button for this avatar, which would open a drop down in real life, but that's a detail that we're probably not going to have time to get to. We'll replace this with the current color so we can style it with utilities. Go with just H6W6, text gray 600, I bet. What do we got? 500. Foiled. We got this avatar that we have to deal with. This is going to have to be a flex container too, since we want these to be centered. I can never find this avatar that Steve used, and it annoys me to no end because I want it to be the same as his design. Unsplash. Maybe we can find it this time. Steve told me he searches for profile photo. Profile foot? Will we ever find this elusive woman? Profile. One day I'm going to find it. I'm just going to be so happy. Profile woman. I think we're out of luck. Okay, let's just use this first one. I've used this one before and it seems fine. And we'll do a little bit of fun here. Fit face area and face pad equals 2, something like that. Whoa, yikes. 3. Yeah, that's probably good. And then let's see what dimensions Steve has here. 36 by 36. Multiply that by 4 arbitrarily. So I'll just make this 144 wide and 144 tall. And then maybe we actually don't need a face pad of 3. Now that it's a square image, it looks like we only need to something like 2.25. Yeah, that seems like a good face pad. Okay. Drop the old face in here. Your profile image as the alt text. And what's 36? H9W9 again. Rounded full object cover, even though that's not necessary since we have a perfectly square image, but that's fine. Okay. And some space between them. So, I mean, that's 31. That's probably going to be like with accounting for the padding in the image, probably 24, which I guess is like an ML6. Is it? Yeah. Seems okay. All right. This could be a little bit wider. Steve has it as 260. So we could try doing something like this where we do block width, full, max width, extra small. What did that do? Did it do anything? Might have to put it on here. No way. Is that what max width extra small does? I am a little bit surprised by that. Let's see. See if I'm missing something. We might need to do like flex 1 on this. Okay. So is that search too wide? I mean, it's a lot wider than Steve's. So we could just give it a hard-coded width. We'll see. See if this is acceptable. I mean, once we do responsive, which probably not something we'll get to today, that might be a problem. But yeah, we'll see. Okay. I will not touch any CSS this entire stream. I promise you. Only HTML. All right. So this is 17, which is really probably more like 12 with line height. And actually, we have to be looking at the distance here. 8. Okay. All right. So let's do this next div at the bottom here. So this is going to have PY2 to get that 8 pixels. It's going to be flex, item center, justify between. Same old left-right split sort of thing. So all issues, I guess we'll make that our page title. I mentioned before, like it's common to have like a hidden page title. So we could make this an H2 and then go back and make our other H2s H3s. I mean, maybe that's a good approach. H3. This is one thing I wish my editor was smarter about. I bet you there's a code plugin that like updates both tags at the same time. That'd be nice. If anyone knows a plugin that does that, let me know. Okay, so let's style this. 24, which I think is text 2XL in Tailwind. Text 2XL, font semi-bold, text gray 900. Probably letting tight. Yeah, well, looks pretty good. And then we have some avatars. Where am I going to find these people? Sometimes you can figure it out from the title, like this like random string, but you can see that it's actually different for some of these, so we're probably out of luck there. So we'll just pick some random people. Unsplash. So we'll just do profile photo. Man, are we gonna find this guy? The guy with the yellow background? Well, let's take this dude. This guy seems like a fair candidate. Face area, face pad equals 2.25. We'll just do the same 144 and H equals 144. Okay, whatever. That'll have to do. So after this H2, we're going to have like a div that contains our avatars. So I'll get that guy in there. Then we have the one that's a picture of ourselves. So we'll just grab this one. And then we have this dude. I'm sure I've seen that guy on Unsplash before. Man, portrait. I don't know, maybe. Oh, #1 result. That's him, right? There he is. That's what I'm talking about. Face pad equals 2. Okay, let's see. I mean, that'll do. We can maybe go to like 2.25. That didn't seem to change anything. Is it because the image just like doesn't contain any more information? That must be it. That must be all the way to the edge of the image already. Okay, so then we have this guy. Now, will we find him? Oh, we found him. Hey, we found this guy too. Okay. Oops. We're having good luck today. You know what? I think I can probably just take this part, right, and duplicate this image and change just the image identifier and then tweak things as necessary. Let's get the yellow dude. What am I doing? What a smile. Okay. How many? I've got 4 here. How many does Steve have here? 4? Ooh. What ones do I even have? They're all different. This guy, her, him, him. Okay. So we can get rid of this dude. We can move this one up. Or sorry. No. What am I doing? Let's replace the first dude with what I just grabbed. Okay, haven't looked at chat in a while here. Missing anything cool? Someone asks, are we allowed to begin playing with the layouts you've been throwing our way? I prefer... I don't want to say yes for sure. Like, there's no license attached to any of the stuff that we've given out so far. But the stuff that we've given out so far likely will just end up for free on the Tailwind site, but maybe just wait to use them for real until we actually put them up for free for real with a license attached, if you don't mind. Play with it like locally and stuff like that, sure, but if you can avoid publishing something real, that would be appreciated. Okay, so these all have to be 24 pixels. H6, W6, rounded full, object cover. And, all right, so now we can do some Flexbox wizardry. So we'll do flex, items, center, flex. I mean, items center, but they're going to be the same, so what does it matter? Okay, so that's something. So now we want to get them like overlapping with this little border. So if I'm not mistaken, this is probably, let's see, we got a 24 by 24 image here, and then where's Steve's border? So that's 28 by 28. So that's a 2 pixel border essentially. So let's try I think we're going to need to do something like this. If we want to stay true to Steve's original dimensions, we're going to have to like wrap these in a span with a class of rounded full, border 2, border white. And then you hear my wife saying silly things to my daughter in the baby monitor. So that should be the same dimensions now. And if we take these and do like a negative ML2 or 1, we should get some overlapping too. Yeah, that's better. And they stack automatically, so that's good. All right, so now we need some margin between those. So let's just go back to full size here for a second. Get this mask group and hover over here, 25. So that's like ML6 on the group. All right. Oh, wrong one. This one. ML6. All right. And now we can do this cool thing. So down here, basically what we're going to have, I guess, put in a span with 2 buttons. And let's grab these icons. So we have like the 4 lines, and then we have like this thing. There's a good chance Steve hasn't actually added those here, but he has. Ah, huzzah. Okay. Copy. Grab the other one. I love Figma. Such a good tool. Paste this in. Get rid of this background color. Move this up. One thing I've always found a little interesting is how come I need the stroke line cap on the first one but not the other one. I guess this one has no lines that are closed, or that are open rather. Okay, good to know. So we'll do current color. Then we'll do class equals probably H6W6 text gray 600. That's my guess, but we'll find out for sure. 600. 600. Okay, so there's that. We'll make the span inline flex so we can put these things next to each other with a bit more control. We'll give it a background color of, looks like, let's see. So it's gray 200 with a gray 300 border. Border, which is just border gray 300, so that's fine. BG gray 200, rounded MD. Let's see what we got. Okay. And then we need some. This button is going to have a background color. So both these buttons are going to need to have some padding. Probably like just like a PX2, PY1 sort of thing. And let's just give them both BG white rounded for a second just so we can see. And then this is going to need some padding too, but it looks like barely any. Probably like P1. Even that might be too much. We'll have to see. So this is 40 pixels. What does this end up being? 42 pixels. So we'll have to think if there's like a clever way to maybe make it a pixel shorter on each side. So this will have a shadow, if I'm not mistaken. And this will have nothing. Not even a background. Probably it'd still be rounded, but just no background. All right. I'm streaming at the same time as Matt. Great. That's what I like. I like competition. I'm going to take a drink of water here because I haven't done that this entire stream. Ah. All right. Let's think. What's different about this compared to Steve's? Is it... so he's got 32 height on the buttons. Ours are probably going to be taller than that, I bet. Oh no, 32. 42. Is it really just that, like, this is only a pixel? No, this is more than a pixel. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is 40 pixels. This is 32. What is the matter with me? What am I not seeing here? 42. How is this 30? This is 40. It looks like he's only got three pixels of padding, and we've got 4 pixels of padding. So that's going to be difficult to replicate. We could do like a P2 pixel here. But really we need like a 3 pixel. We could do something kind of hacky, like adding a -1 pixel margin on both of these. This is like such a weird thing to do though. But it does accomplish the result mostly. But it's too weird. So we'll just live with a slight difference for now. All right. Now let's do this button. So is that going to be the same plus sign as the other one? Looks like it. So we'll just find where we said new project here. Just grab this and use it as a starting point. It's not going to be quite the same, but for our purposes, it will be pretty close. So we're going to have white text. It's going to be text small, medium, text white. This can just be inheriting the color. We'll say new issue. This is probably gray 800. So we'll go BG gray 800, rounded MD. It's looking pretty stupid. So we'll do PX4, PY2, something like that, just to get it started. 40 pixels. I feel like this should be like, we're gonna have to figure out this responsive stuff sooner rather than later if we want to be able to actually work on this effectively with the dev tools open. So that's 37. I don't know. I guess maybe, you know what, it's like, it just needs to be the same height as this thing, right? So if we make this a flex container, we should just kind of get what we want for free. Although it looks a little funky to me. Maybe PR4, PL3 because of the icon. Maybe like PL2. Yeah, that looks a little more balanced. Okay. Let's add some margin here. What does that do compared to here? Oh, he's got way more. Okay, let's measure it. Use the old trick. 20 pixels, which is 5. Okay. I might just like do this so we can see better. And let's give it like a hover color. So we'll do like hover BG gray 700. Seems okay. Is that what his button looks like? Basically. And his icon looks a little different. A little bigger maybe. His feels centered better than ours, but I don't think we can do anything about that. I think this is just the way it's going to be. A little odd for sure, because like if we get rid of item center, yeah. So I mean it is technically centered. It's just the way that the text compares to the icon, I guess, is funky. Like if we gave this like BG blue 100 or like whatever 500, and we gave this BG red 500. Lost my background. BG blue 500. Like, are those boxes centered? That's always like the real question. I mean, they do look centered. So it's just life. It looks like it might be 1 pixel heavy in one direction or the other when we're zoomed out, but that's probably unavoidable. We're not going to our goal with what we're making for Tailwind UI is to provide HTML, because we want to provide something that is as like framework agnostic as possible, right? So if we got really opinionated and made everything view components with all these like hyper specific props and everything, I think it would be too annoying to customize and too annoying to like use with React or with jQuery or whatever. So my plan is to just do everything as HTML. We'll provide like a tiny bit of Vue, only because I find Vue to be the easiest to show you how certain things work. Like, I'll show you an example. Say we were looking at let's see, like drop downs. Let me look at this drop down. Drop down simple with avatar. What am I doing here? You know, look at, say, this. So here's like a really simple nav bar component, right? And it has this like very minimal bit of interactivity to show you like how this works. So the way that we've done the code is there's just a little tiny little script tag at the bottom pulling in Vue with like one little state variable, just so you can see like, okay, at click, we set is open to false, and somewhere you can see like the dynamic classes that are being added. So I like to think of this as more like a vanilla JavaScript example than a Vue example, because like if I was building a real Vue app, this would be a component. It wouldn't like be pulling Vue in from a CDN and creating a new instance or anything like that, right? But yeah. Oh, but your question apparently was about something different. So I'll probably be adding interactivity to the example, but to some degree. Like, I don't think I'm going to build a full drag and drop like Kanban board, because that all depends on what library you're going to use, like whether you're using Shopify Draggable or some React drag and drop or whatever, right? So I've always hated those themes that you buy where they come with this nasty jQuery stuff that's not really written in the same style as your project and whatever. I prefer like the Bulma approach, where it's just like, I'll tell you like what needs to change, but you kind of can wire it up with the libraries that you like best. But for this stream, like we might do some stuff eventually, like, you know, once we make like the nav responsive and stuff, like opening and closing that. Maybe I'll show like how we can make this little toggle thing animate or something for fun. Maybe we can have like a little drop down here, but that's probably like the extent that I would want to go. Tailwind UI, we're hoping to have early access next month. We'll see. That's maybe ambitious, but we're trying. And it'll probably be like 25% done by then. And we'll just keep adding new stuff until we have everything that we kind of wanted to include. Price we're not sure on yet. Our ballpark, it's not going to be like super expensive. It's not going to be super cheap. Like, we're thinking somewhere between $100 and $500 for one-time purchase, lifetime access, use on as many projects as you want, but we haven't really figured out the specific details. Okay, so there's that. I mean, obviously the responsive stuff is a little bit messed up, but that's probably out of scope for, you know, if we're going to get everything done today. We have some scrolling stuff to deal with, but let's just try and get some of the actual like Kanban board visuals in place. Hopefully this will mostly just be simple, because it's like build one of these, and then copy and paste. All right, so I remember, like, let's see here. So we have to do, I think it was P3, right? So we'll have like a main section here maybe, or maybe this will be, we'll do it here, and we'll say P3. And we're going to have a column which has a width of 320. So what's that? 80. So we actually do have that value. So this will be flex. This will be a div with a class of width 80 and a background color of gray 100. Rounded MD. And this will be, I guess, H3s. So I have a heading 3 for backlog. Text small, font medium, text gray 900. Just a little side note. One thing that people, common question I get about Tailwind is why, when you add like a heading to something, by default it just looks like this. It's like doesn't look like a heading at all. It's just like looks exactly like paragraph text, and that's because literally every time you make a heading, you have to choose what size, what weight, whatever you want it to be, right? Like this is an H3 and this is an H3, but they look totally different. So to me, it seemed like actually harmful to give default styles to those things, because it would discourage people from actually thinking through like what should the actual styles be for this heading. So that's why we don't include default heading styles for anything. Let's see, what do we get? P3 here. We might want to do a little bit less vertical. No, it's probably okay. Okay, so let's add underneath here. We'll probably have a UL. Funny thing about ULs, I feel like every time we use an unordered list on the internet, it's not truly unordered. Like it is totally ordered, right? Like these items in this backlog are in this order for a specific reason. Like this is the first item because we wanted it to be first, but maybe not. So, okay, we'll just do an li here. Give this a class of, let's see, rounded medium, shadow, BG white. Looks like maybe like, let's see, what's the distance? 20, so like P5 maybe. When do you use span and when do you use div? Good question. I don't know. I'm gut feeling, and it's probably wrong most of the time. If something is like replaced, is meant to feel like inline-ish, I'll make it a span. If something's meant to feel blockish, I'll make it a div. But I've made spans that are display block in the past for sure too. So I am probably not, I don't know. I don't have a good evidence for my decision making there. What's the distance between these? 11, call that like 8, so maybe like MT2 on the UL. Okay. All right, so here's a HTML semantics question for people. What would this be to you? Is this a heading? Hard to say. You know what is actually even more interesting? I feel like in reality, this should all be in an anchor tag because these are all clickable, right? Someone in the Tailwind Discord the other day suggested that this is like one of the things I'm always unsure, like what stuff to use, like what markup to use. And he was suggesting, I think it was Ben, was suggesting to use like a definition list with like a screen reader only labels. So you might have like title, add discount code to checkout, date added, September 14th, you know, which I thought was kind of like an interesting way to mark it up. So when screen readers read it, people know what they're actually getting. But I think we'll just do it simple for now. Add discount code to checkout. And got an image over here. I tend to run into problems when I make images direct to children of Flex containers. So I usually wrap them in another element. So we'll just grab Buddy's face up here. Paste that in. And we'll just say, we'll just leave the alt text because you kind of need to know who the person is. This guy, man. What a goof. Rounded full. It's probably the same shape as the other one. H6W6. All right. What does that give us? Okay. Class flex justify between. This text is going to be text small, font medium, text grade 900. Okay. Didn't wrap, even though Steve's had to wrap, which is suspicious. Checkout page. That would be a good explanation. Not the same amount of text. There we go. And what does he have? He's got tighter line height than me. I mean, maybe because it's kind of titleish, that's okay. Let's try letting snug. Yeah, nice and snug. All right. Okay, so next thing is this date down here. So I'll have another div with the old class flex justify between. And I guess we'll put this in a p tag too. I don't know. It's not a paragraph, but I'm increasingly convinced this stuff doesn't really matter. Like, you know, whether this is a p tag or a div. Not convinced that that actually makes a real difference. So, you know what? I'm going to make it a div. Like, I don't think it hurts anybody. I'd be curious to know, like, what does a screen reader do differently with a div versus a paragraph tag? I've heard you can skip paragraph tags and, like, go to the next paragraph. But in the case of this, like, that doesn't seem like something you'd need because it's so short. Okay, so text small, text gray 600. And then we've got this badge thing. So this will be interesting. So let's just try and make this badge. It'll be a span class equals bgteal 100. Then inside of that, we have a circle, which we could build as a span or we could build as an SVG. I feel like an SVG would be more appropriate. Let's just do it as a, what is write an SVG by hand? VBox 0066 circle. And what do you have to do for the circle? I think we have a circle in here somewhere already. I thought I saw. No? Let's see. SVG circle. We'll learn how to draw an SVG circle by hand. CX, CY. Okay, so that's just going to be the center. So CX is going to be 3. CY is going to be 3. And then the radius is going to be 3. And that'll give us a, because this is a 6 pixel circle, right? Yeah. So we'll just do fill equals current color. Class equals, actually, if we want it to be 6 pixels, we don't have a class for that in Tailwind for getting that size. So maybe what we'll do is we'll cheat, and yeah, this makes the case for the SVG actually stronger. So we'll do 8, but we'll center it at 4, but we'll still give it a radius of 3, and then we'll give it a height of 2 and a width of 2. Text teal 500. And if I did that right, we should get like a little, yeah, there we go. We got our circle right size. So what I did here is I knew that Tailwind would let me make an 8 pixel block, but I can't make a 6 pixel block. So I made the SVG 8 pixel square, but had the circle only have a 6 pixel diameter. Smart. Okay, so now we need to say feature request. This will be probably text small. Time attribute. Let's see, MDN time attribute. Time tag. Time element. Oh yeah, I like that. 2019-09-14. I like that a lot. That makes me feel a lot better about the div. Okay, so this is going to be inline flex, item center. And what is the roundedness of this? 5. Steve, you animal. I don't have that value. This is 6. I'll have to go with a 4 pixel border radius on this, Steve. Sorry about that, bud. Where was I? Rounded. All right. And then maybe like some PX2, PY1 sort of action. That's huge. These colors don't look right either. Till 900. Okay, so probably don't need as much vertical padding here. Did I not get the font size right on these? I mean, so this is 29 pixels. Steve's badge is 24. So definitely have to lose the PY1, I think. It's probably just not necessary at all. 21 and Steve is 24. We could go PY1, letting tight, kind of do a little bit of a trick there, which I don't love. Gets us more in the ballpark though. And then we'll do a little bit of a margin here. Two. Text doesn't feel properly centered, but just for fun, I'm going to change this background color to something I can see a little bit more easily for a second. Okay, so we got a span, inline flex, item center. This is apparently centered. It's just the text that feels off. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, so this is height 26 pixels. Like, yeah, I don't know. Something feels weird about it. We'll just roll with it. And then I guess we're gonna probably baseline align this stuff. Maybe that'll work. Yeah. And then we'll add a decent amount of margin here. All right. So how does this look? Looks pretty close. So why don't we just duplicate this li a few times. 2, 3, 4. Let's just duplicate it once and then add some margin to the top and then duplicate that. Empty 3 probably, I'm guessing. Yeah. Select that, duplicate. Duplicate. Okay. And then let's just duplicate the whole thing a few times. So we've got this column that starts here. Duplicate. Definitely, like if you were doing this for real, it would be easier in a lot of ways because you just be sourcing all this stuff from some data set, right? So just all be in loops. You wouldn't actually have this like in monstrosity that we've created here. So I'm just going to select all these and I'm going to say flex shrink 0 because we don't want them to shrink. And we're also going to do like an ML3 on all but the first one. I think. We'll see. That's probably right. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just going to maybe make like one of these longer than the other ones. I actually didn't want to do that one. I wanted to do the second row, second column. Let's just do maybe. Maybe the fourth one will add a bunch more too. Just so it can kind of feel somewhat realistic. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, so now let's get like scrolling working because that's going to be a whole thing. All right, so usually I find the best way to do this is in DevTools because it's mostly just trial and error to figure out what containers need what overflow settings. So this div is likely, if I had to guess, if I was a betting man, I would say this needs overflow hidden. And that this div needs overflow auto. And so that's horizontal scrolling working. And I would also bet that this div, which is this whole section on the right, needs overflow hidden. And that this div needs overflow hidden. But maybe then this one doesn't. Okay. Still don't have horizontal scrolling, but bear with me, we'll get it. I suspect it's because this needs to have flex call. This needs to have flex shrink 0. No, flex shrink 0. This needs to have flex 1 so that we get a height. Oh, not quite there yet, folks. This is one thing that sucks about reducing my screen resolution for streams. Okay, so let's see. How big is this? So this is too big right now. This is 992 by 674. Okay, so the height on this is right. Let's think. Scrolling. We got this. Part of me wants to like delete the sidebar for a second and see. Okay, so with no sidebar to worry about. Sidebar is not affecting things, so that's good to know. This. Overflow auto. Okay. That's promising. So let's get rid of this one. Okay, so that's something. Do we need this flex 1 still? No. Okay. So that means we might not need the flex call here. Oh, we do. Okay, so. All right. I'm surprised that we couldn't get this to cascade through properly, but that's okay. So now we do the sidebar. So, just want this window to be smaller. I guess we can just do that using put the dev tools at the bottom instead. Okay, so now this sidebar. This one's probably going to be easy. Probably just a matter of overflow auto on the sidebar. Okay. All right, let's try and replicate those changes here. So sidebar, overflow auto. The main section above that, we had to have flex 1, overflow auto. This div needed to have flex shrink 0. This needed to be flex call. Let's see how far that gets us. Okay. I mean, this is pretty promising, actually. Maybe we didn't even need as much stuff as we had before. Yeah, it looks like we got scrolling solved. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it there for today. There's definitely a lot of details that we're not finished with. Like, for example, let me think. One thing is actually, see how we have no padding on the right here at the end of the last item? I do want to solve that. This is like one of those things that it's a weird little trick I learned recently-ish that changed my life. Or I won't say changed my life, but was challenging to learn, challenging to find the answer to. And the trick is to make this inline block. Oh my God, that's not the trick. That wasn't enough. The trick is to make I think if we added wrapper div that was inline block or inline flex maybe. Oh yeah, maybe that's the problem. It can't be inline block and flex, but maybe inline flex will solve it. There we go. Just has to be inline-ish. That solves the problem. Okay, yeah, so lots of details to polish, like, you know, proper focus state there would be cool. Making some of these interactive things work would be cool. Doing, obviously, the responsive version, because I have to say this is not the nicest responsive layout. But, I mean, we got pretty far. I think this looks pretty good. It only took us about an hour and a half. So, yeah, maybe I will pick this up and stream the responsive stuff tomorrow, something like that, if that sounds fun to you. For now, though, I think I'm going to call it and sit down and recover from my ailments. So, yeah, thanks for checking out the stream. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. And thanks for helping me out when I ran into problems here or there. That's always good. And I'll probably do another one of these tomorrow. All right. See you, everyone.